For more on these stories, we're now joined by our correspondent Jihan Hafez in Washington, D.C. Jihan, the federal appeals court says the only man who is being held as an enemy combatant on U.S. soil should have the right to challenge his detention. How significant is this announcement?
Well, it's actually very significant, and it comes on a day and in a time frame when the issue of Guantanamo Bay, the status of detainees being held there, has been brought into question. And if you can remember 3 weeks ago, the U.S. Court of Appeals, which has tended to move away from the Bush administration policy lately, has actually reversed that appeal and said that men who are being held as enemy combatants can overturn that charge and be held as prisoners of war who have more legal rights than detainees do right now in Guantanamo Bay. And like I mentioned earlier, there's been a lot happening here in Washington regarding the legal status of Guantanamo Bay suspects. So this announcement is huge here in the United States as far as where enemy combatants or where men being labeled as enemy combatants can overturn that status.
The Bush administration has urged a federal judge not to postpone the first war crimes trial at Guantanamo Bay, saying any delay would hinder the fight against terrorism. Do you think the district judge will heed the request, or will they go ahead with postponement of the proceedings to consider the legality of the military commission process?
Well, it really depends on the judge and his political leaning, because if you're a true practitioner of law, then you're going to understand that the legal aspects of how people have been tried and the process that's been held under has actually breached international law, the military field guide, and the Geneva Conventions. So President Bush is requesting that this case continue because he's afraid that in any situation, especially with the video being released today, that the judge might have a political leaning and move toward the side of the driver who's trying to overturn his case.
Earlier today, we had new video footage of a teenage Canadian detainee in Guantanamo prison accused of killing a U.S. soldier in Afghanistan. Amnesty International has called for him to be repatriated to Canada. Do you think the current media spotlight on this detainee may make any difference to how his case will be handled?
Well, I think so, Mehrdad. And also, he was detained when he was 15 years old. He's a child. Even as a 21-year-old now, he's still a child. He's been away from his family for so long. I think this is going to hit the viewers hard as far as seeing for the first time what happens at Guantanamo Bay is not some 34-year-old being accused of being an al-Qaeda member, but a 21-year-old boy. And he's, as you showed the video footage, he's crying. He's in a lot of pain. And today, actually, the subcommittee to the House Judiciary Committee had a hearing, and I don't believe this has broke in international media yet, but it's been reported that he's been sleep deprived for over 50 days. So he's experienced the same kind of harsh, intensive, coercive interrogations that that older detainees have experienced there. So it's most likely going to change in the favor of people who are being held at Guantanamo Bay as far as restoring their habeas corpus and actually taking these issues to court in a fair and just manner.
And finally, Jihan, assuming the next U.S. administration to be a Democrat one, do you think we should expect any change in the way cases such as these will be handled in the future?
Well, it's hard to say now. I said that I just came back from a subcommittee hearing to the Judiciary Committee, and if you watch the Democrats and Republicans bicker back and forth, it's going to take a lot of work to put everyone back on the same track, because we've had 8 years of the Bush administration. They've been the dominant power in the American government for a long time, and now the Democrats taking back, they're in fear of, well, at least the conservative perspective is in fear of this, liberal, left-leaning wing coming back into the government, when in all reality, they're just trying to restore the legal processes, the injustice to a lot of these people who have been denied for a long time. It's really hard to say just yet. I don't predict it's going to happen in 6 months, and most likely we'll have to take a year to 16 months to actually see the change. Right. But as of now, we see Democrats trying to make a difference, but we'll see where it goes.
Jihan Hafez, our correspondent in Washington. Many thanks there.